Time now to debate the gondola proposal for Little Cottonwood Canyon with the Inside Utah Politics panel. This week we have Snowbird General Manager and supporter Dave Fields and former Salt Lake County Mayor and opponent Peter Kroon. Gentlemen, let's get right into it. There's no dispute something needs to be done to alleviate traffic up the canyon, but the right solution very much in dispute. It's a heated conversation in our community. So let's start off with opening statements from each of you. I'll give each of you a minute. Peter, let's start with you. Why do you say the gondola is not the right solution moving forward?
Well, first of all, I think, as you said, Glenn, all of us agree that something needs to be done about what we call the red snake, those red taillights that you see going up and down the canyon on those great winter days when we all love to go skiing. So the question is, what is the right solution? And first of all, before we spend $600 million on a gondola, on improved roads, on buses, we need to have incremental solutions. And that's what we at Friends of Alta and other environmental organizations, and a lot of people and the taxpayers of Utah believe is the right step, first step to solving the traffic issues. And so improved buses. Of course, UTA is having some problem getting staffing, so that's difficult in the short term, but long term, improved buses, more buses, and then improved road conditions. UTA has already, or UDOT, frankly, has already done a great job on some road improvements, so we need to do more of those to see if we can alleviate some of the traffic.
Okay. Dave, let's bring you in. Why do you say the gondola is the right approach to alleviating traffic up the canyon?
Well, I appreciate the fact that UDOT spent years and years studying this problem and narrowing down the transportation options to deal with a growing population here in Utah, and especially along the Wasatch Front, down to the gondola. This is the cleanest, safest, most reliable way to get people up and down the canyon on a year-round basis. We're adding 30,000 to 40,000 new residents into this state every year. They're moving here to enjoy the recreation we've all enjoyed our whole lives in some cases here in Utah. And we need to think about getting them up and down the canyon differently. We have a huge population explosion happening in this state. It's not realistic to think that we're going to put everybody in their private vehicle or in a bus that's stuck in the same traffic as private vehicles, and that's going to work. It just won't work.
All right, Peter, I want to hit on something you said. You talked about these incremental steps. In UDOT's preferred solution, they go ultimately with the gondola, but with those steps before that. So talk about where you disagree with what UDOT is looking at right now.
Well, we don't disagree with the incremental steps. We think there should be incremental steps first. And then at some point, there needs to be a decision whether the incremental steps work or we need to do something further. So at that point...
So let me just be clear. At that point, would you then possibly be more supportive of the gondola?
At that point, we think the better solution would be a one-lane bus route going up in the morning and then going down in the afternoon. So, so that way you can either sit in your car and get stuck in traffic, or you can sit in a bus and go right up the canyon in an express bus.
Okay, Dave, talk about this preferred solution and these incremental steps ahead of the gondola.
Many of the solutions that are being considered are either in place or in process right now. We incentivize carpooling. We have a segment of our parking dedicated to reservations. We're thinking we will likely expand that in future years. But at the end of the day, we have too many people who want to be in the mountains on a year-round basis, and we need to find a way to get them up and down the canyon without widening the road, which would be devastating to the climbing resources. It would have a terrible impact on the water in our canyon. We need fewer vehicles. We need a new way for people to get up and down the canyon that is clean and has no impact on air quality here along the Wasatch Front.
Okay, let's get into some specific impacts, and let's start with environmental. Peter, when you take a look at the environmental impact, how does that play out in the way you support this proposal?
Well, all those solutions will have an environmental impact, so you can't get around having some impact. We just feel the gondola solution has more detrimental impacts on the environment than other solutions. You'll have 25-story towers. I think there will be 22 of them. So the visual impact will be tremendous. And then you'll also have to put in the towers themselves, and that will also affect the gondola, and you'll need to obviously get to them at some point. So you need ways to get to each of these different towers. So there, as much as others say it's not going to have much of an impact, we think it will have a significant environmental impact, not only visually, but on our watershed as well.
Dave, what's your argument for the gondola when it comes to environmental impact?
Well, it's clear that from an emission standpoint, from an impact on the actual acreage in the canyon, it's much smaller with gondola. These towers are very small in comparison to a scenario that UDOT considered, which was road widening. We think that would be a very bad idea to put that much cement, basically building a Provo Canyon in Little Cottonwood Canyon. We don't think a 4-lane highway is a good idea. We still have 64 avalanche paths in Little Cottonwood Canyon. Putting more people on the road only increases the avalanche hazard index. It's more dangerous, and we don't need that.
Let's get into the financial aspect of it. Obviously, all of these solutions are going to cost money, but from that standpoint, how does that play into the way you look at this, Peter?
Well, the biggest issue is, $600 million, and frankly, it's going to primarily support 2 ski resorts because it will only have 2 stops at Alta and Snowbird. And so we think that's not the best way to spend $500, $600 million in taxpayer monies. First of all, there's plenty of other needed infrastructure resources in our valley. We have the Great Salt Lake that's drying up, so we need to spend that money wisely, and we don't think the gondola is the best way. Also, we think it's not the most efficient manner of getting people up the canyon. I understand the parking lot will have 1,500 to 1,800 parking spaces at the gondola. Otherwise, somebody will have to take a car to a parking lot, then a bus to the gondola station, then the gondola station up. So the time it will take to actually get to the mountain will cause people to probably take it once as a novelty and then not take it again.
All right, Dave, address that, the financing and the convenience.
There's a lot of speculation going around right now about what it will cost to ride the gondola. We don't know that. We don't know what a toll would be. That will impact how many people ride it. That's a key part of this whole equation. And until we know what the toll will be and what the cost will be of riding the gondola, we won't understand exactly the revenue that will come in from this installation. But I believe, as I've studied this extensively, this will be a revenue-generating transportation system that's very different than building roads and bridges. If people are paying to ride this gondola, which, by the way, would be a stunning ride up Little Cottonwood Canyon, then we're generating revenue that offsets some of the cost. Road widening is just expense. There's not going to be revenues generated from that. So I think as more and more people learn about how gondola would work, you're starting to see more people support gondola than previously, and now a majority of Utahns are supporting it according to recent surveys.
We have 1 minute left, 30 seconds each. I want to talk about population boom. We've hit on that a little bit. By 2040, we're expecting even more. I couldn't imagine where we are today as a kid, and I certainly can't imagine where we'll be in 2040. So how does that play into this equation, Peter?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's going to not get better unless we do something. So we have to do something. We're seeing more and more people also go to different ski resorts. They're going up to Weber counties where they know that it'll be an hour to get up there, and going to Big and Little Cottonwood Canyons, maybe 35 minutes or maybe 2.5 hours. So I think what we maybe need is more ski resorts. I think we also maybe need more flexibility with the ski resorts about their ticket sales and allowing people to ski at different hours of the day rather than having everybody cram in between 7:30 and 9:30 in the morning, which is when we get 8,000 people that come up the mountain.
All right, I have to give Dave opportunity to weigh in on this. 30 seconds, Dave.
We're seeing visitation numbers in the summer that rival our winter visitation. People want to be in the mountains on a year-round basis. We need a transportation solution that gets people up and down the canyon safely, reliably, And it could also be something that, as Utahns, we're proud of. This would be unlike anything else in the world. The longest gondola in the world here in the state of Utah would be stunning, and it's a great transportation solution. We need to think progressively about transportation and not rely on the old ways.
All right, gentlemen, we will have to end it there. A very interesting conversation. We will see how it proceeds from here. Thanks so much for your time this morning. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more Inside Utah Politics.